Hi,
Hi,
Rick.
my name's Rick. I'm an injured worker. I am not a criminal. I am not a malingerer. I am not trying to spam the system. I am an injured worker.
Right.
I was injured at work October 2nd, 2010 at approximately 1:30 in the morning.
Wow.
I don't recall the accident. I did know that I underwent 2 operations that day to save my life. So yeah, I'm just an injured worker. And on that day, I became a victim of WSIB. In the processing my claim, they've ignored medical evidence. They have altered medical evidence. They have outright lied. They have broken the law. And this got me wondering, what exactly were my rights? So I did, like my mama trained me, go read, find out. So I did. I read the act, the Workplace Safety and Insurance Act. And I went, there's something wrong here. Backdoor subversion of the Charter of Rights and Freedom. That can't be good. Isn't good. So I went digging deeper. I read the courts. What did the courts have to say about workers' comp? And they kept saying historic trade-off. Well, I was an idiot. I had no idea what the historic trade-off was. But the sounds of it must be important. So I went looking. The Association of Workers' Comp Boards in Canada has a version that I could not see our predecessors, those workers in 1913 that fought for us,
Right.
would give up a right to the court for nothing. It had to be something more to it. That's when I discovered the works of Meredith. And I read it all. And that's what I want. This is what we gave up a right for. These 5 Meredith principles enshrined in the historic trade-off that nobody can define. There are 5 sections in historic trade-off. How the board was to treat injured workers. That's the first principle. The second principle was compensation and duration of compensation. Third principle was where the money comes from. The fourth principle is what they can do with the money. And the fifth principle is the duties of the board. You can sit here and go through the first principle. It's pretty easy. The board is to treat us in a non-adversarial, inquiry-based, benefit of the doubt to the injured worker, and without the ability for the board to find fault. So that's the first one. And I wasn't treated that way. There, the board is actually very adversarial. just, I felt like I was back in the military. You're on combat alert all the time. What are they going to do next? Well, I continued reading Meredith. The second principle was compensation. Meredith put it very simply. You get compensation till you get out of that bed a healthy man, and I'll excuse myself here because Meredith always used the term man or men, or you die. The end of your days, as he said. We don't get that. Oh, what else don't I get? The third principle was that monies collected by WSIB assessments were to be based on what he called the current cost model, what the government called the unfunded liability. They were allowed to collect what monies they needed coming year, and that was it. Nothing about anything beyond that point. Well, government turned that one into propaganda. Okay, I can deal with that. But they were not allowed to divert the funds from that accident fund that they were creating for any other purpose. None. Today, injured workers have to pay for the Ontario Health and Safety Act. That comes directly out of our pockets. Fourth principle was employer protections. They were guarded against the ability to be sued by an injured worker. And that's the only principle that's left. Fifth principle was the board itself. Their only concern was to do what is just by an injured worker. They were not to consider the finances of employers. They weren't considering anything else. They were supposed to be free from government, employer, and worker influence. Meredith called them honest men. The reports at the time said that he whittled society to select his first board. His first board was made up of three people who were appointed to administer the act, to administer the agreement, the historic trade-off. Did pretty well. It held till 1993 when the government decided they were going to interfere with our agreement. They somehow had priority over it. And they started tinkering with it. When they were doing, they were screwing it up. 1996, the Harris government fired the autonomous board and replaced it with political partisans. Put an insurance man, David Marshall, in charge of a social program.
Right.
The result was we were the target. How to reduce benefits payable to, well, actually, benefits is the wrong word. I apologize. Compensation for a workplace injury. Because when you look at the math, businesses pay only enough money for the expense of the coming year of injured workers. If you take that money and you pay for something else, where does it come from? It comes from the pocket of it.
That's right.
Now, it looked like you had something to say.
Which brings us to deeming.
Oh, phantom jobs. You call it the wrong thing. We go back to the original agreement. There was nothing in it about forcing an injured worker back to work. It was all about getting him better. Not, oh, you can make this. But there is a trick. In Meredith, had one exemption for uh, partially disabled workers, those that could not work a full-time job. And it was whatever portion that you could not work. Let's say you could only work 20 hours out of a 40-hour work.
Yeah.
You would get 50% of your wages for the rest of your life. Not you can make this much money doing this job, therefore we're going to take it away. It's you can only work this much, therefore you deserve 50%. And Meredith went into great lengths justifying his reasoning for compensation to be for life. Deeming, forced return back to work. They're all just an examples of how they're taking money out of our pockets because there is no money there. I like how in deeming the WSIB decides that their return to work specialists are more have more authority than a treating physician. They can say, well, you know, your physician says you can't work, but this person over here that is not medically trained says you can. No, I don't understand how people don't know this and look at it and go, what's going on?
It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
And then there are some instances where the WSIB will reach out to healthcare professionals as well.
Oh,
and talk about injured workers and their cases in essence, you know, and that's a complete breach right there too.
They also pressure doctors to alter their reports to more benefit for WSIB.
Yeah.
They also use paper doctors. In my case, I had a specialist diagnose one thing. A general practitioner say, no, that specialist was wrong. It really means this. And I'm thinking, okay, even if you stack the paper together, the specialist should outweigh the general practitioner. But in WSIB's case, they hire these people to get an opinion so they can deny a claim.
Exactly.
WSIB is a corrupt organization. It is not there to fulfill the purpose. You can read the act. First thing that they say that they're going to do is do things in a financial and accountable manner. There's no accountability at WSIB.
No.
None. They set it up so that you can complain to the Fair Practices Commission. The Fair Practice Commission has no teeth, so they can't do anything. And you can appeal.
Yeah, appeal.
Now, according to AT&T,
Excuse me.
they're going to take that away from us.
Yes, with the upcoming KPMG report.
Yes. I mean, they have an 80% failure rate at WSIB. 80%
Yep.
of all cases that end up at the tribunal are overturned.
That's
an
mind-blowing.
80% failure rate. And instead of looking at that, they've decided they're going to hurt injured workers.
Yep.
That way they'll solve the wait list. Logic like that is just astounding.
Detrimental.
I mean, I cannot conceive of the mental flips that I have to go through to go from one decision and reach that conclusion. It's just not possible.
Within 30 days.
Yeah, and you now, or what will become is you will have to appeal with the reason and get new evidence to support your claim within 30 days. But that's not what the law says.
Well, that's not even, sorry, just for a second, that's not even considering WSIB mailing the letter, injured workers receiving it. You know, by the time we get the letter, how many days has that been? Now you got to go see your doctor, then you got to get the referrals, then you got to go to the appointments, and then go back to get the results. And in some cases, you're waiting months or years. I just wanted to point that out.
But I see we also have to worry about WSIB's habit. They will sit on a decision past the appeal state before they even mail it out. Say that I have one of my cases, claims, part of my claim. They said, we made a decision way back when and then mailed it a week after the 6-month period had expired.
Right.
And that's a treadmill. They're saying that this will relieve the appeals process, when in fact, it's going to kill the appeals process. I missed my 30 days. They say, no, I appeal that. Obviously, WSIB, who wants to save money on the appeals process, says no, goes to the tribunal. They can say no. They can say yes. And if they say yes, you start all over again.
That's right.
I went in front of the tribunal once, won, and their written decision was overturned by WSIB. Treadmill. I ran the numbers, and WSIB has scammed taken out of the pockets of injured workers. And these are just rough numbers, close to $30 million or $30 billion. They gave away $1.6 billion. It is not their money.
That's right, the rebate. Yeah. That's right.
Doug Ford called it a tax credit. And it's not tax. It's not the government's money.
Injured workers.
It belongs to injured workers. It is to be, as Meredith said, go into the pockets of injured workers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the furthest from the truth right now. We all wind up on Ontario Works, welfare, ODSP.
That's another thing that confuses me greatly. Workers' comp was created to be an employer liability for as long as it lasted. Yet there are probably more people on welfare, injured workers on welfare or disability or whatever, than there are proper being treated. They're just downloading us onto the public taxpayer. Something that Meredith, who said in his belief that the true aim of a workers' compensation system was to prevent the injured worker from becoming a burden on his relatives, his friends, or the community. Today, we're just shuffled up. Yeah, but we had ODSP. You know, we could sit here for
100%.
days.
Yeah,
And,
100%.
you know,
It's
I
mind
don't know.
as a side note, as an injured worker, what was it like for you personally? For you and your family? What was that like?
Personally dealing with the pain or the limitations or WSIB.
The pain, the limitations.
My family has been great. My son, at the time of my accident, was going through to be a paramedic, so attending medical school. And so, like a living nurse, take care of me. My wife was extremely supportive in that. She still is. But they know what WSIB put me through. They knew it. They read the letters. They've listened in on the phone calls. They knew that I was being lied to. And they supported me. And without them, I honestly don't think I would be here right now.
Yeah.
They're my rocks.
It's still good to have because some don't have that support system. So that's
And that's a
phenomenal,
shame.
you know? It
Yeah.
is. It is. And especially when you're fighting such a beast as WSIB, you know,
And
it's like a roller coaster.
yeah, the ups and downs are not fun though.
No,
I mean, I
it's
remember
terrifying.
riding roller coasters, and that was a lot of fun. These ups and downs were not.
No, no, it's the complete opposite. It's a nightmare.
Psychological stress that they put injured workers through.
Oh, I'm so happy you brought that up. The psychological stress.
I didn't call it psychological stress when I was in the military. We called it psychological torture. WSIB is deliberately and with malice trying to alter the reality of injured workers into something that's not.
And they don't care. They
And
don't
they
care
don't
about
care.
injured workers.
No, we're a cost. And if they can reduce the cost, hey, too bad it's your body.
Yeah,
And they don't realize is that in the next 30 seconds, somebody's going to get hurt. Not
exactly.
not me physically hurting them, but they're going to get hurt on the job.
Yeah.
And this is going to be their reality. And I looked at what they did to us, and I saw a pattern. And that pattern has reemerged itself. They came after us. They came after our right to injure to workers' compensation. Subverted the charter, and they did everything else. Now I can see it coming after the education workers, hospital workers. It's amazing how destructive governments are to Constitution of Canada. They are the enemy within.
That's right. That's right. You touched on so many good points, Rick. We have about 8 minutes left on the clock here for the meeting. Improvements that you would like with WSIB. Advice for an injured worker as we wrap up.
Okay, well, I don't want improvements. I want them to go back to the historic trade-off as created by Sir William Meredith. Advice for injured workers. Tape everything. Record it. You go to a doctor, record that session if it's work-related. They phone, record. Get a hold of your file. Read it. Look at the law. Understand your rights. It's tough, but together we can defeat them. I think all.
Yeah. That was absolutely beautiful. Well, thank you very much for this. All in the cause for raising awareness for the injured workers. We need it as much as now as ever,
Yeah, we do. I survived. I am an injured worker. I am not a criminal. I am not scamming the system. I am not malingering. You have yourself a wonderful day, Lisa.
Thank you, Rick.
And we'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.